Today, we're not just telling a story, we're actually going to break down a strategic playbook. Think of it as a masterclass in how you build an empire, from something like textiles all the way to telecom, by basically running the same core set of brilliant, and let's be honest, audacious moves over and over again. So let's get into the strategy. You know, when you see every massive refinery, every single cell tower, a multi-trillion-rupee valuation, it's kind of hard to believe that it all traces back to this one number, 1,000 rupees. I mean, from a capital perspective, that just sounds impossible, right? So how on earth did they do it? That is the big question we are tackling here. And I'll tell you right now, this is not a story about luck. It's about a series of very deliberate, repeatable, and often incredibly bold strategic moves. So let's start piecing this whole puzzle together, right from the very beginning. Okay, so the story starts with the founder, Dhirubhai Ambani. And his business education, well, it didn't come from some fancy MBA program. It actually came from working at a petrol pump in Yemen. You could say this was his real-world laboratory for figuring out the nuts and bolts of commodity trading, arbitrage, and how supply chains really work. So when he came back to India, he started the Reliance Commercial Corporation, and it was built on this one powerful principle he had totally mastered: low margins, high volume. See, instead of trying to make a huge profit from a handful of clients, the entire strategy was to capture the whole market by making just a tiny profit from everyone. This idea, this principle of mass market penetration, would become the core DNA of the entire Reliance empire. So, how do you take a trading principle and turn it into a consumer brand people know and love? Well, Reliance's first major test was applying this high-volume strategy to the incredibly competitive Indian textile market. And their answer was a brand that would completely redefine the industry: Vimal. The Vimal formula was, at its heart, a three-step plan to just capture the market. First, you build trust with absolutely uncompromising quality. Second, you use that low-margin model to make sure that quality is affordable for pretty much everyone. And third, you go all in on an aggressive marketing campaign to build a national brand. This wasn't just about selling fabric. It was a scalable model for building consumer trust on a scale nobody had really seen before. As Vimal got bigger and bigger, so did the ambition. Reliance needed a ton of capital to expand into these huge industrial sectors like petrochemicals. But here's the problem. How do you raise that kind of money when investing was seen as a game only for the rich and powerful? Well, you don't play the game, you change the rules. The 1977 initial public offering was so much more than just a financial move. It was a strategic masterstroke. Dhirubhai Ambani basically skipped the traditional financial gatekeepers and went straight to his customers, the Indian middle class, and invited them to become owners in the company. He democratized investment. Just look at the strategic impact here. Before 1977, the stock market was basically a closed-off exclusive club. After 1977, it was suddenly open to millions of new people, which gave birth to India's equity culture. From a pure business standpoint, this was genius. It created this huge, loyal, and spread-out pool of capital that gave Reliance the fuel it needed for its gigantic industrial dreams. All right, let's fast forward. After 2002, leadership passes to the next generation, with Mukesh Ambani taking over. The world is a different place, India is changing fast, and the next big thing is obviously digital. The big question was, could that same old playbook still work in this new high-tech world? Let's just quickly analyze the market at the time. In the early 2010s, if you wanted mobile data in India, it was spotty, complicated, and super expensive. It was a luxury for a lot of people. This was a classic market just waiting to be disrupted. And seeing this, Reliance geared up for its next massive strategic bet. And in 2016, it launched Jio. And this right here shows you the genius of it all, the sheer continuity. With Vimal, the goal was to clothe the masses, using a high-volume, low-margin play. Decades later, with Jio, the goal was to connect the masses, using the exact same playbook. The product changed from fabric to data, but that strategic DNA, capturing the market through mass affordability, it was identical. So, when you look back at this incredible journey, from 1,000 rupees to sparking a digital revolution, what are the real lessons here? What is the core of the Reliance strategic playbook that we can actually learn from? From a strategy point of view, the whole thing really comes down to these 4 pillars. First, don't just play in a market. Aim to completely redefine it. Second, take your big, calculated risks on the mass market, not the tiny niche segments. Third, your innovation should be laser-focused on bringing down costs to make quality accessible to everybody. And finally, you have to have an unwavering belief in your long-term vision. That right there is the essence of the playbook. And that really brings us to our final thought. The Reliance story proves that the biggest business opportunities are often hiding in plain sight, just waiting for someone to democratize access to something valuable. So the question for any strategist today is this: what's the next FIML? What's the next geo? What massive fundamental human need is just waiting for its own high-volume, low-margin revolution?